Okay, so now we'll start working on the materials since we have the character all rigged. So our target with our materials is this is one of the promotional renders from DAZ, and I put a marker on a section of the character that we're going to try to match, and those are the RGB values: 239, 189, 164. So our render from Blender, we're going to try to get close to those colors, and if they're close to those colors, then we're close to what the DAZ artist intended for their renders. So that's the goal. So the first thing I like to do is split the screen, put up our shader, and we're going to start with the character face, and we'll put some lights in. Alright, where's the face? Okay, so this is the node tree that Diffeomorphic gives us, which has a lot of things in it, but we'll see what we have here. Okay, so first let's set up some lights and just kind of get a test render, and we will import an HDRI. So let me find one that we can install here. I just downloaded an HDRI from HDRI Haven, which offers a bunch of free HDRIs, which is really nice, really convenient. So we're going to go with this Small Studio 01, and we're just going to do 1K because we really just want the lights. We're not worried about the background or anything like that. So downloaded that to our desktop, so we'll add that in desktop, Small Studio, and now we have our studio. So let's do a test render and see what we have. And the reason I picked that HDRI is if you look at the values here, it looks fairly neutral color, and white balance 5400K, and it's pretty consistent lighting across the subject. So there's not the deep dark shadows. It's just a very consistent light. And I'm in Eevee. Alright. So cycles. Try it again. Alright. And we will start by increasing our background strength to 1. And not a bad result straight out of DAZ into Blender. We'll hide our rig because it's kind of distracting. And let's see. Alright. I realize we do not have the principled bsdf in here. At least I don't think so. So I'm going to re-import a copy of this character, copy all the materials over, and hopefully we can get a good principled bsdf shader, because that's what we need. Actually, that's the way I do it. It might not be the best way or the right way, but it works out okay for me. So You can either skip ahead if you don't want to see how to do this, or there is a pretty handy way to copy materials. It comes in handy, and I'll demonstrate that. So let's go back into DAZ, and we're going to export the character only. Okay, so let's see. Delete all of these. Delete character. Keep the clothing. Don't need the hair and the wings. Oops, horns, wings. Okay, and let's see this as temporary. Character temp. Save, and we will run the exporter. Save. Generate our DBZ file so that Diffeomorphic can import. And in here we will go back to DAZ importer, import our temporary character. But before we do that, we have to change the global settings. So I forgot to check this before I imported them. The default is the cycles full Iray materials, which adds this volume setting, and it does not appear to use the principal bsdf. So we're going to change this to principled so that we can get the principal bsdf. And okay, now we will import our character temp, import DAZ. And once we get it in, we'll double check and make sure we have the correct node setup that I'm looking for. So Genesis 8 character. Oops, wrong one. Where's it at? Well, I'll do it like this. All right. And face, okay. And there's our principal bsdf. So this Genesis female.001 has the materials we want, and our original character Genesis female has the materials we want to replace. So if we go into our add-ons, oops, and we want to make sure there's a material add-on, material utilities, we will enable that. And then what we need to do is select the mesh that is going to, and then hold the control key and select the source that the materials are coming from, and shift Q, copy materials to selected. Now when we look at the face, we have our principal bsdf. Principal bsdf, okay. And now we can delete our character temp, delete hierarchy, gone, and our character now has the correct node setup that I was looking for. Alright, so let's do another render. Numpad 0 will get us to the default camera view, and I did set up this camera view offline. I just set 1280 by 1920 and centered it on the face. Pretty simple. So we'll do a quick test render, see where we are, and then we'll make some adjustments and see if we can get it exactly where we want it. So to make some adjustments, first thing I do is adjust the subsurface scattering. So if you read or watch some other tutorials, you'll see that the dealing with people and skin color, we typically don't use the diffuse color. We use 100% subsurface, and we can plug the character diffuse map straight into the subsurface color. And the other thing we'll do is adjust the subsurface radius. So we'll add a vector math node and set it to multiply. The ratio we'll use is 1, 0.35, and 0.2, and that's these represent the depth that the RGB values are going to penetrate the skin before they scatter. So, and these numbers are just the ratio between those three colors. So keep red at 1. You can adjust green up or down a little bit. You can adjust the blue up and down a little bit depending on your character and your skin color and what you're trying to achieve. And these will be our multipliers down here. I found that 0.04 works pretty good, so we'll start with that and we'll move and see what that gives us. So basically this will multiply 0.04 times the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel. It will keep it will keep the relationship between these three numbers, but it will move the distances up and down the way we need them, so we get the behavior we expect. So plug that into the subsurf, and we want the same thing. We will control copy in the ears, so control paste, and put the diffuse right into the subsurface color, move subsurface up to 1, and let's do a test to see how well it comes through the ears with the backlight. So first thing I'll do is move the camera so we can see both ears, right about there, and we will turn off the world light 0, and we'll add a spotlight behind the character to shine through the ears. And one little trick if you're trying to add something to your scene, if you select the cursor here and click on an object, then when you add our spotlight in this example, it will add it to that location, which gets us close to where we want to be. So we'll rotate on the x-axis, -90. Oops, did that wrong. Rotate x -90, and we're going to tighten this up a little bit, and now we're going to grab on the y, and there we go. Now we have the spotlight shining behind the head through the ears to see how our subsurface reacts. All right, and what we should get is just like in real life. If you would do this in real life, you should see the ears glow a nice red. And so we'll turn up the watts on our spotlight and do a test. And when you get to white, it's too high. That means the red, green, and blue values are all exiting the mesh before they scatter. So this is looks like it's a little high. So let's go back to the ears, and we will turn this down a little bit, 0.02. And that's getting a little closer. Maybe even, oops, 0.01. And that looks pretty close. 0.015. So that gives us a nice red. There's no white. And that should give us that nice soft subsurface scattering that we're looking for. So like I said before, if you set this value too low, the light will never penetrate. So the red, green, and blue values are coming into the mesh, but they never go through it because they're only going through 0.0001 meters or millimeters, whatever the measurement is, and they're not exiting. So if we set it up too high, everything's going to be white because the red, green, and blue values are going to basically exit the mesh before they ever get to scatter. So the red and the green and the blue will never get to scatter within the mesh. They blow through it instead. So 0.05 seems to be a pretty good value. And we will test that out on our face. Whoops. 0.15. And we're going to do the same thing for the lips. Oops. Oops. Copy. And lips. Control paste. Alright, so the face, lips, and ears all use the same material. You can combine them. I like to keep the material number at 16 in case I need to copy and paste materials from one character to another. It just makes it easier to keep everything the same as when it was imported. So, alright. Oh, we have what we have there. Lips. Just delete everything. Face. We'll copy. I forgot to delete it, I think. Lips. Paste. Alright. There we go. And we will delete our spotlight. Turn our world light back on. And maybe move our camera back. Tried to keep the camera about the same position as our DAZ promotional render so we can get a good comparison between the two. And just take a quick look before we do a final render. And it's a little glossy, but we can adjust that. But that, I feel like it gives it just a little more of that skin feel to it. And here again it looks a little overexposed, so we'll adjust exposure. And actually, since we're here, we'll do it with the lights this time. Set that back to 0. And go to the world lights. Set that down. And that looks pretty close. And let's switch this over to false color. And see these red spots, that means you're really getting too much light. So we'll change that to 0.5, maybe too low. Yep. 0.85. Now where'd it go? Showing purple and blue when you first started. It's kind of deceiving, but that's getting pretty close. Oh, and I bet these are the specular highlights. I bet those, because we're a little glossy right now. So let's fix that, and then we'll come back in and finish rendering this. So go back to go back to Filmic, and we'll go to the face and we'll look at the specular. Let's see, so we have this lobe for the specularity, I assume. Dual lobe, uber, roughness 1. So let's try, I'm assuming this is trying to mimic the dual lobe specularity in DAZ. So we'll double these values and see if we can increase the roughness, get rid of some of that glossiness we have there. And that's starting to look a little better. Nice glossiness on the side of the face, but not blown out specular on the front, so that's not too bad. And we'll look back at the false color, Oops, where am I at? False color. And that's pretty good. Could probably drop the light down just a little bit, but that's pretty good. And this is just the way I do it. I mean, I'm sure other people have other workflows. Maybe there's a better way, but this just helps me get an idea. So I look at this, use this as a starting point, and then adjust when I look at the actual image. So we'll go back to Filmic, see how we look, and that looks pretty good. So we'll do a quick render, compare it to what we had before, and then we'll do a color test, see how close we are. So we're done with the render. You can see the character looks a little pale. The colors look washed out, which is pretty typical for Filmic, but we'll look at some ways to resolve that. So we'll compare in our photo editor. The colors are close. So I just matched the green, 179, 179, and we can see the red is a little low, and the blue is a little high. So one thing I noticed that helps in Blender, bringing the DAZ materials over to Blender, is adding gamma to the color. So we'll do that. Go into shader editor. You see I was playing around. We'll add color gamma, and let's see, color gamma, and we'll just move it up to like 1.3 and see what that gives us. And that's pretty good. That definitely puts some color back in the character. So we'll render that out, see what that gives us. Okay, after rendering it out, brought the character back in, adjusted for exposure, match the green channel, and as you can see, with the addition of gamma, our red channel's pretty close, and blue channel's pretty close. That's about as close as we can expect. We're not comparing the exact same pixel to the exact same pixel, and this is probably about as close as we're going to get. Plus, this character has, I believe, we have some makeup, definitely some makeup around the eyes and whatnot. So this is about as good as we're going to do, which is fairly decent, pretty close to the original match. So let's go back to our character. The other thing I did was I did take the contrast back off. It just seemed to work better without it in this case, but that's definitely something you can play with. And as you can see, the exposure is a little low on this, so we can definitely turn it up as we're working on, or we could increase the world light, either one, but just something to keep in mind. So now we will go to the shader editor, and we will add this and this to all of our materials. And what we can do is group, Control G, and we'll name this skin settings. Actually, no, we have to put it here. Skin settings. Okay. Now we have this node group that if we want to change the subsurface scattering depth, or want to change the gamma, we'll be able to change it for all of these skin materials together. So we just have to put this put this in the other materials shaders. That way all of the skin has the same settings. So control copy, torso, the base color will go in here, output color in the subsurface, and the vector into the subsurface radius. And subsurface goes to 1. Lips, lips are not done. Put it in here. Come on. Alright, so base color, delete this. Base color in the subsurf, vector into the subsurf radius, subsurface set to 1. Ears, base color into subsurface color, and our subsurface radius, subsurface set to 1. And we have legs and arms yet. Actually, do this. And subsurface radius, subsurface set to 1. And arms. Control V. Whoops, that did not go to the right spot. And subsurface set to 1. That means I probably messed up legs. I did. This goes to the subsurface channel. Subsurface radius, subsurf 1. Okay. File, save. Now we should have all of our skin settings about where we want them. One thing I did notice with the cornea. Let's see if I can change one thing here. Nope. Back. Let's change. Well, okay. Let's do a quick test render. Full body. We'll look at the skin, see if we're happy with it, and then we'll move on to just a few other minor adjustments. One other thing I did forget to mention: the bump is always set to something different. I think the bump tries to match what's in DAZ, and what usually works best for me is setting this top value to 0.1 and the bottom to 1, and I'll do that for every material. And then if I need to adjust, I can, but this in almost every situation, this always seems to work best for me. And we'll put sclera, iris, and pupils. And toenails, fingernails shouldn't really have any bump. So we'll just delete those. Whoops. Delete those. And I just noticed our screencast keys are not on. I didn't even see it. And then we'll do a test render of the whole character. So we'll move our character out. View, camera, and somewhere around there. Oops. So we'll do a test render, see what the result is, and then adjust from there. This is the result of our full character render. Pretty decent results, I think. And just a couple more things I need to tidy up, and then we'll be done with the character skin settings. So one thing I noticed, we adjusted the specular settings on the character face, but we didn't do it for the rest of the character. So we'll go through the all of the shader settings and adjust to these two values, 0.5 and 0.36. The torso, 0.5, 0.36. And the lips actually are pretty good because they're nice and glossy. We're going to leave those where they are. And 0.36, 0.36, and the legs 0.5, 0.36, and the arms 0.5, 0.36. Okay, and the bump settings are correct. And oh, one more thing. If you notice on our render, it's a little blocky. You can notice some artifacts here and there, especially on the face, because we're still at base res and we're rendering at base resolution. So we can add either a multi-res or a subdivision surface modifier, and that will give us much better resolution in the on the character. So that should be it for the character, and we will move on to the outfit and the horns, wings, and the background. Next we'll work on the character clothing materials. So we'll select, we'll just select one here, and we'll hit the / to isolate it. And that's why I like using H3Is as our light source. Bump that up to 1, because you can isolate each individual piece pretty easily and adjust the materials. So first thing I like to do before getting started, so this particular piece of material has 8 different materials, but a lot of times those some of those materials are the same. So we'll go back to DAZ importer and go to materials and merge materials, and if any of those are the same, it will join them. So we went from 8 materials down to 2, so now we just have 2 materials to adjust. So basically maybe 7 of those materials were all using the exact same node setup. So there's no sense in adjusting the node setup 7 times when you can adjust it once, since it controls 7 different materials. Okay, so go into the render and see what controls what. Since we're rendering only in cycles, I'll get rid of the EV output. And we'll look at the surface here. Okay, so the jewel is only the jewel, just those. Everything else is controlled by this material node. Alright, first thing I'll do is set my bump 0 to 1, and these materials are done by Aeon Soul, very good content creator. Would highly recommend pretty much any one of that person's products. Very high quality. Alright, so let's look at the isolate the bump. So we'll select the bump and hold down Control Shift, click. That gives us the bump, and you can see how much bump our map is giving us for the threads, the texture on the material. And what else do we have here? That's our diffuse color. Glossy, specular, displacement. Alright. Top glossy, let's see what this is. Top glossy, specular, and displacement. Okay. So what I'm going to do is delete all of these and set up my own here. So displacement, bump will go down here. Specular, if we use it, glossy roughness, bump, and displacement. Okay. And we will Shift A add the principal bsdf, and we're going to set this up from the beginning. Delete this. Alright, so we'll start with our diffuse. This is just our base color. And it looks pretty good. Probably don't need to adjust much there, but we'll see. We could maybe give it a little contrast if we wanted to. We'll see here. Specular I'm going to skip for now. This I won't go too deep into it, but pretty much any non-metals are going to have a specular value between 0 and 1 here. So most 90 or 95% of the time, if you set your specular value to 0.5, you're going to be pretty close to any non-metal material. So we'll skip that for now, and we'll look at the roughness here. So this is a glossy map going into a roughness value, roughness slider. So the in Blender, the dark parts are going to be the shinier parts. And let's see what part we want to be, and that's probably the opposite of what we want here, because this looks more like cloth. This looks more like it should be shiny. So we will invert the glossy map, which makes sense. If you invert a gloss map, you get a roughness map, and vice versa. So converter, or color probably, invert, color, and we will Control Shift click, and we get there's not as much difference, but these parts that are more leather definitely look more glossy, and these parts that are more metallic are definitely going to be more glossy. So that looks correct. Let's plug it in and see how it looks. Roughness, not bad. Let's add a little more gloss. And this is the problem, bringing materials in from DAZ. I mean, these materials are made for DAZ. So same thing with the skin, same thing with any material set you bring in. All these maps and the entire setup is optimized for DAZ. So yeah, there's going to be some conversion. So anytime we have a black and white map and we want to increase the difference between the blacks and the whites, we can use either a map range or a color ramp. And color ramps are usually seem to be more popular because they're a little more intuitive. We want to increase the darkness of the blacks, which will give us a little more gloss. So we increase this black slider, and that will give us, obviously give us some darker blacks there, which will increase the gloss, which is good. It's probably what we want. And we're going to leave the white there because we don't want to reduce the whites, because that's going to increase the whites in the darker areas where we don't want to. So see how that looks on the render. And that gives a lot of gloss. Probably don't want quite that much, so we can dial this black value back. We'll just type in 0.5. And that's not too bad. I think we can probably keep that. And if we wanted to make the whites a little more white, a little less glossy, we can. Actually, we can't. Not with the color ramp. We'd have to do it with the map range, but we won't get into it. That's pretty good. We'll leave that there. And let's. It'll look better with our bump map hooked up. So let's see here. So this is the bump map isolated. This is the bump map coming from the bump map node. And that looks, if we would increase this, we would get a lot of bump. And it wouldn't look right. Actually can't really tell. But I've experimented with it quite a bit, and I'm very comfortable with 0.1/1 bump map into height. If we do not have a normal map, we will add our displacement map. Shift A, displacement, where is it? And this will be non-color. Anything that is not a diffuse color will be a non-color map. It's just black and white data. So the gloss map, bump map, displacement map, and spectral map if we were using it, which we are not. And okay, so color into the height. Scale is usually 0.01. We can put the bump map into the normal, and this goes into this. And we will see what that looks like. Pretty good. That makes quite a bit of difference, the bump map. Now let's make sure it's true bump and not, or true displacement and not just bump. So we have to make sure in the material settings down here that displacement is turned on. So we go under settings, displacement, and bump. Sometimes by default this is set to bump only. In this case it's set to displacement and bump, which is what we want because we have a displacement and a bump driving our material here. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. The metal is the brownish looking metal. Might be a little shiny, but not too bad. We'll have to test it out in the render to see if we like it. Could move it down just a little bit. That way we don't have it super jet black. Okay. And last thing, we'll see if this has a subsurf on it. See if it needs one. See if it looks better with a subsurf modifier. Actually, I think that does look better. Yeah, definitely you see the squareness. You can see the hard edges there. So when we put the subsurf on it, we get a nice round geometry there. So what we can do with the clothing is we can use, we should be able to use, maybe we can't for some reason, the adaptive subdivision. Nope, not available. Okay, I forget why, but we'll keep it the way it is. So that is exactly what we're going to do with the, oh, we have to do the jewels yet. And I will kind of cheat on this one because I purchased an add-on for all of the basic materials, metals, liquids, jewels, all those things, because it's a huge time saver. And I don't have the add-on installed in here, so I'll have to find a node setup that works We can, because you notice this doesn't really look like glass right now. This converted okay. It's more like a shiny plastic. We can take a shot at it real quick. Let's add a glass bsdf. And that's just a clear glass. We'll add a red color. And let's see, we can find the IOR for Ruby, I guess. Let's try multi-scatter, see if that gives us a little more clear. And we will, let's isolate this area. That is Control B. And what that'll do is just render this, render this area so we can get a better idea of what we have. Control Alt B, we'll clear that. Control B, render this out. And we can increase the samples. We're at viewport, we'll go to 256, see what we can get here. And that's not terrible. We can obviously see through it. Maybe we can increase the roughness so that we don't see so much of the material underneath. But the more we increase that, the more it looks like a piece of plastic. So maybe we'll take the roughness out. Multi-scatter looks fairly good. Sharp would be another one that would give us a sharp specular reflection. But multi-scatter is usually the clearest, but then again we don't want to see through it, so we'll go with sharp. And I'll look up the IOR for a Ruby and we'll set that in there. But Control B, remove that, get back to our active viewport render, and that's decent. There's not going to be a lot of light on these anyway, so. Alright, that's that. And now we'll go through and do this for the other garments. Next we'll do the hair material. So again, we'll do / isolate the hair, and we'll pull up the materials. There are 10 materials, and we'll see if we can merge some of these back together. So make sure your object is selected, merge materials, okay, and we went from 10 to 4. One of those is the hairband, one is the cap, so we really only have two materials, which is good. Okay, so we'll hide that with the N key and turn on our viewport render. We turn the samples back down to 32, and let's see what we have. So one thing I do want to say, when we're looking at the render and we see these artifacts, that's usually because the transparency is not rendering correctly. So what we need to do is go into our light bounces, which is it's in here, light paths, okay, and we need to increase these, and you see how that starts to go away. Basically, if you don't have enough samples for the hair transparency, we're going to have these types of artifacts. So bump that up to 24 and bump this up to 16. You still see some artifacts here, and that's definitely getting better. 24. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, that looks pretty good. Looks like the artifact's been taken care of. So the other thing I noticed with these, let's see what we have here. So bump 0.11. Oh, I'm on the side. Let's see what the side controls here. Delete the EV output. And we'll see. That is most of the hair, it appears. And the front is, looks like the front's just a couple of the strays, the stray hairs. So the side, this will be the majority of what we're doing, and then we'll look at the front and adjust that. Okay, so this should be our transparency map. One thing I noticed with DAZ is you see how this white is not very bright white. So we can use a color ramp. Converter, color ramp. And we can increase the white by sliding this white value up. And what that'll do is it'll give us more hair, but still have the transparency, soft transparency around the edges and around the ends. So let's see the effect of that. Whoops. Oh, there it is without. You see how a lot of this hair disappears down here? So put that in the factor, and we get, well, we get some of that hair back. Still not a lot of it, but definitely get more. You can increase this white value more if you want. You see how more of that hair comes back down here, and it looks pretty good because we still have still kind of fades away into nothing down here, but it gives us some more volume up here. So maybe we'll put that at 0.2. All right. That's pretty good. And then there's the color. Alright, so bump. We'll look at the bump, see if there's anything we want to do different with that. I would say not. Alright. And the hair color multiplied by nothing. We could actually get rid of that. And this is our, what are these? Specular, I think. Specular, and well, that's the color again. So I'm not sure what the setup is for that, but it looks okay. We'll leave it like that. The cap is probably just fine the way it is. What we can do is actually we're not going to. We're just going to leave it the way it is because you really can't see it anyway. Adjust the bump. Sometimes you'll have hair with a part down the side, or some part of the scalp exposed. In those situations, the cap will make more of a difference, but in this case, not so much. Okay, so the hairband looks pretty good. Probably won't do much with that. Just a bump. And everything else looks pretty good with that. So I don't think I'm going to do anything with that. That looks fine. Okay. Alright, now let's do the horns and wings. And I'll finish up the clothing and we'll be good. Okay, so / bring everything back. Get a quick idea of what we have here. Alt A to deselect everything. And we're getting there. Not too bad. Okay. So these horns actually look pretty good. I probably won't do much with those, but we'll forward slash isolate those. And if we go over, hold our mouse over in this panel here and hit the numpad period, that will take us to the material, the object rather, and the associated materials. And there's only one material, which is good. And bump strength is 10. I don't know if we're going to keep it there. Let's try to put it on 0.1 and 1. And that looks pretty good. So this is what it was at 10 and 0.5. And move it to 0.1 and 1. Not nearly as much bump, but probably closer to what it's supposed to be. And we have volume in here, which we don't need in this situation. There's really no volume in horns, so the more probably closer to a plastic material. So that is the diffuse, and this is, what is this? Oh, specular. So that's the bump, that's the specular. And we probably could increase this bump a little bit. 0.2. That looks good. Yeah, we'll go 0.25. Let's see how that looks. Normally that doesn't work, but in this case, it seems to work pretty good. The other thing is, the roughness is very uniform. So if we can find our glossy node, and let's just, you know what? Yeah, let's delete these. Shift A, write a principal bsdf, and this is all because when I imported, I did not import with the principal bsdf. I imported with the volume, DAZ volume, whatever it's called. So entirely my fault. Specular map I probably won't use, especially with a multiplier. Bump, we already determined that's pretty good. Diffuse is good. Nice color. Whoops. Nice color. Maybe. There we go. And roughness, and that is already looking better. For some reason the bump was not affecting the roughness with the other setup. So we have it back now. That looks pretty good, actually, just the way it is. Maybe it's a little shiny. Let's see what it looks like when we, this is pretty shiny. Let's see if we can get some variation with this. Way too much, so we will, well, first of all, we'll put this to a non-color, and then we will reduce the black, and we will use a color ramp converter, color ramp, and we're gonna drop this. Whoops, we're gonna increase the white, which will actually, you know what, we're going to just decrease this black color. We'll put it down. We'll put it down to about a third. Still way too much. Put it way up here. It's still very glossy, and probably want to reduce the white a little bit too. Come on. And that's not looking, see. Alright, so we'll just get rid of that. It's a terrible idea. We'll just adjust the roughness till we get it where we like it. And that looks pretty decent. I think I want just a little less specular. If you take the specular all the way down, you lose it all. Put the whole way up, it looks washed out. Anywhere in between, the effect is a lot less noticeable. So if we adjust it down just a little bit, I think that looks a little closer to what we want. I like that. We'll leave it there. Alright, and let's move on to the wings. / and wings. Oops. That's the rig. This is the object. And we're missing the materials on the inside. Alright. Inner wings. There we go. So the inner wings and the wings. Okay. Alright, so let's see what kind of materials we have for these. And we have just one, which is fantastic. So let's select the inner wings, and we'll hold the shift key, select the bone parts, and we'll hit the /. Now we have these two that we can work on. And inner wings, okay. So let's see what we have here. We have, this would look nice with some subsurface scattering, maybe. Or maybe, I don't know. We'll see what we have here. And again, oh, there we have a subsurface scattering map. And something is not working correctly. I don't even know where I am. There we go. I was on the wrong material. So, subsurface scattering map. Is it? No, I must. It says SSS, but I don't know that it is since it's gray. Bump and diffuse. Bump and specular. Okay, that's pretty nice. I might use that too. Alright, so let's see what we have here if we adjust the bump. And it's not too bad. There again, there's probably supposed to be some bump there, but it's not. You see those nice lines and creases, and I'm not seeing those reflected in the specular. So I think we're going to delete these. We'll file save. That's multiplied by red, that's why. It's actually not a bad color for subsurf. Delete these. And Shift A. Shader. Principal bsdf. And we'll get the color into here. And we'll get the bump, because we know that should be close. And so we're getting our bump back, which is nice. And we could do, let's see what our subsurface is going to give us. Put subsurface up to 1. And we move those values way down. Let's do instead of 0.01, 0.04. So 0.01, 0.0035, 0.002. That's the same ratio we use for the human skin. 1, 0.35, 0.035, and 0.02. Okay. And it gives us a little bit of a washed out look. Not sure if we like that yet. But what we can do is we can add a little gamma to darken that up a little bit. And definitely have way too much roughness in that. Let's see if we have some type of roughness map. That is the opposite. We don't want the cracks to be glossy. This is a specular map anyway, so let's plug it into specular and see what we get. It's actually pretty nice. So with that, what that's doing is the darker values are 0, which are giving us 0 specular value, or closer to 0 specular value. This is more of a mid-gray. That's going to give us more of the 0.5 specular value. So that actually works pretty nice. I like that. We're going to leave it just like that. And we can look at this color too, since we have it. See if that gives us a better... Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. We're going to use that. That's good. I like it. Okay. So, those are the wings. And we will go to the... whatever part this is, the bones. They look super plastic right now. So we'll adjust those. See how many materials we have. We have 2 wings. Oh, right and left. So we'll be able to use... Should be able to use the same material for each one. Actually, I already deleted this node setup. So we can't merge materials yet. What we can do is we have wing right, and we can come down and change this wing left to wing right. That way they're both using the same material. Alright. So, let's see here. We have our bump, 0.1 and 1. And, oh, you know what? It's not going to work. Wonder if they must have different UV maps or something. Because wing left. There we go. Alright, we'll have to keep them separate. No problem. So this is our specular map, diffuse and subsurf again. Don't know that we want subsurf on the bones, but we'll see. So diffuse, kind of a brownish color, not bad. Let's adjust the bump, 0.1 and 1. And again, it doesn't control shift click. There's not a lot of bump there, which it probably shouldn't be. But again, we don't really see any of it showing up in our reflection here. Looks like smooth plastic, which is okay if that's what you're going for, but we're not really. So let me delete these and I'll leave it there. Add a principal bsdf. And the diffuse into the diffuse channel. We'll try the why does it say S? Is that actually the bump? It's probably supposed to be the specular. We're using it in the bump map, which is fine. If it looks good, if it works, we'll use it. We'll see how it looks in the specular. Not bad. Not great either. Roughness. Oof. Actually, it probably wouldn't be bad if we just lowered that a little bit. Let's add a color ramp. Converter, color ramp, and since it's probably too dark, too shiny, which means it's too dark, we will start out by lowering the blacks. So that's way too much, and we can increase the whites. And let's see here, lower the blacks a little more. Nope. Not really getting what I'm looking for. So we'll just we'll adjust the roughness. Spread out way too much. Maybe if we lower the specular down. Yep, that actually looks better. I kind of like that. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's a little, maybe too glossy. I kind of like that little extra gloss. So maybe we'll bump this up just a little bit. There. That looks pretty good. Alright. And you can compare it to where we started. Very shiny, glossy, no bump, to what we have now. Bump. Got some gloss in there, looks pretty good. Okay, so we will use this material on the other one. So we're just really just copying the principal bsdf. Control copy. Go to our other wing. Delete everything. Control V. Connect to surface. Bump. 0.1. Bump. Oops. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Bump. And the normal. Diffuse. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, diffuse color. And there we go. Same material. Alright. File. Save. And we'll do a test. Well, actually, I still have some clothes to finish, and then we'll do a test render and see what we have. Okay, so this is a full character render, just to kind of get an idea where we are. Skin textures applied, adjusted, clothing, hair, horns, and wings. Looking pretty okay so far for DAZ to Blender conversion. Just under our basic white light. So we'll do the background next, and we'll look at this after we get the background and maybe start adjusting lights and see if we need to adjust anything further. So we'll get back into the 3D viewport and hide the character. Move our camera outside of here. We can get rid of this. Nothing in this group right now. And we'll change this group to wings and hair. Whoops. Wings and hair, and we can move this down to the character. Now we want to bring the entire character back. Wings and rigs, everything comes back. Okay. So let's adjust our background. Now we did try to remove the lights, but I think there's still some lights in the scene. So we will, let's see what we have. And okay, so first thing I try to do is isolate all the lights. We'll turn our world light off to see where the imported lights are. Because I mean, one big thing, we definitely want to be able to control our lights and get the effect we want, both the color of the lights, the positioning, shadows, all that. So we'll select this, and we'll move that to the lights group, and we'll go up here and search for light. We'll turn this off. Okay, and we have one light here somewhere. I'm not sure what that one is. There's one. There's one. And we just need to find this one, which we can / maybe. That's a hidden light. Okay, so we'll get rid of this and hit the period again. There's a light, and we'll move that. Whoops, move that to the lights. / bring everything back. There's a light. Move that to lights, and our other one. Light, move to lights. All right. See what we have here. And no lights, except for maybe this. This has some illumination on it, I assume. Emission, DAZ emission. So we'll leave that go. Obviously it doesn't cast much light, it just is itself is a bit illuminated, so we'll adjust that later. And we'll start by working on the throne. I'm assuming my plan is to kind of have a render just in this area, the character in front of the throne, and then have light coming in from here, kind of casting down on the back of the character. That'll give us a good outline. Put another light coming from the top, or maybe up from the bottom, with some sharper shadows. So that's the plan right now, but we'll do lights after we do our materials. So we'll just kind of focus on, the whole point of that was to say that we're just going to kind of focus on this area in here. Any of the materials outside that area, probably not going to do. So let's go to our resolution. We'll change it to 4K, 3840 by 2160. And view, camera to view, and probably something like that. But yeah, we'll see. Alright, that should be good for now. So you can see anything outside that render area we don't have to really spend too much time on. Alright, so this material first, we'll / isolate, make sure our world light is on, and let's see what we have here. We have 2 materials, and disconnect that one. So that is all the stone, and then we have the horns, which are obviously just the horns. Alright, so for the horns, we only have one diffuse map. And so we really don't have a whole lot of settings we can do for that one. And I will add my principal bsdf only because I understand it. I know how to adjust it. It's simple enough that I can just add my base color in. And since that's the only map I have, I really only have the glossy roughness to adjust. So in this case, I'd like a little more gloss. So I will move this down. And somewhere around there. Doesn't have to be perfect. This will be in the background, so if it doesn't turn out the way I want, I can blur it, blur the background, which I'll probably do anyway, or maybe add some fog to kind of block it out if I'm not entirely happy with it. Okay, so that's pretty much all we can do with those. We can adjust the spec if we want, but not really necessary. And the stone has 2 maps, bump and RGB. So we will put in our principal bsdf. We know the bump goes into the bump, and the diffuse goes into the base color diffuse. Set this to 0.1 and 1 because that's what works for me. Looks pretty good in the reflections here. You can see the bump showing up. And if we isolate it, that's a Control-Shift click. We can see the bump in the material. That looks pretty good. We'll take that. And then we have the material itself, which is okay. Let's definitely move this roughness up because stone does not have much of a reflection or much of a glossiness to it. So that's moved up, and the material looks really washed out. So I'll add one of my favorites, which is a gamma node. And that looks pretty good. We can select the node and tap the M key. That'll isolate it. So we can See the effect of the node. I think I like it better with the gamma on as opposed to being off. Just darkens it a little bit. So there's not a whole lot more we can do with this unless we want to take the texture out and try to sharpen it in a photo editing software or something like that. So which I'm not going to do. So we'll leave the throne there. And let's see here. We will / and look at our camera view. Look at the floor, or whatever that's called. Stairs, floor, stair joints. And we'll see if bring our screencast keys back over here. And we'll see if we can merge any of these materials. And we cannot. Must all be the same. Alright, so stairs, floor, and joints. Alright, so let's see what these are. We'll / isolate, oops, / isolate, and render. Delete the EV. This is just the joints in between. So not a whole lot there. So probably won't do anything with those. I'll just add my principal bsdf. So I know the bump is right. And color, sometimes coming from DAZ, the colors are multiplied by another color because that's what's done in DAZ. So in this case, it's the multiply node is there, but it's not doing anything. So we will just remove it. And like I said, there's not a lot we can do here. Maybe adjust the roughness because it is stone. Probably shouldn't be very glossy. Alright, and the floor. See what this is. We'll unhook the node. So that's this part up here, and then the stairs are obviously the blocks here. So let's do the floor, which actually looks pretty nice. So we'll see how that works. We can delete that. We can delete all these. Principal bsdf. Really wish I would have imported all these with the principal bsdf, but my mistake. I did not. But it's fine. This is, okay, so this is the bump map, non-color, 0.11. And if we want to isolate that, see the bump. Looks pretty good. And you can increase the bump. You can get a little more in there, but I've done it, tried to do it quite a bit, and never gotten great results. Usually this combination just seems to work. I don't know why. And then the base color, very shiny, which should not be. Oh, we have a specularity map, so we'll isolate that and see what we have. So for the specularity map, so black is 0 and 1 is white. So when we hook this up to specularity, we should have basically 0 glossiness on this black area and very bright glossy on this area, which I don't know if that's what we're looking for, but since it was included, we'll see how it looks. And it should be a non-color, and I think I'd rather keep that since it looks like it's supposed to be a stone. I'd rather not include that. I'd rather just have it as a less glossy stone look. So I think that looks a little better, maybe a little more roughness. And then once we put our final lights in here, we can look at it and adjust the lights further if we want. So basically by lowering the specular, increasing the roughness, we're taking away all the additional specular highlights or glossiness of the material, because we're trying to make it look like actual stone. So because I want these steps to be similar, I'm going to Control C copy, and we're going to, we're going to the stairs, Control V paste. We'll put our diffuse color into that, into the output, and adjust our bump into normal. And then we have a similar reflection on the stones as we do the top here. So when we look at the bump output looks pretty good. Stones look a little white, a little washed out. So maybe we'll add a gamma. Ooh, I like that better. So let's put that in our base color. And yeah, I like that better. So let's do the same for the floor up here. Yeah, better effect. Maybe a little strong, but I like it. I like it better. We'll see. All right, so that's that. And one other thing we can do is this bump map should be a black and white map. So let's look at that real quick. Oops, we have to Control Shift click the actual map, and it is a black and white map. There's not a lot of variation, but we might be able to use this as a roughness map as well, because the 0.98, 0.918, this is almost at 1 anyway. These white values are getting pretty close to 1, so if we just plug this color into the roughness, let's see what it looks like. Still a little glossy. It does give us some more variation, if that even sounds right, but I think I like it better without. I thought I'd try it. Okay, scratch that. Let's go to the next material, / bring everything back. Do the back wall. 7 materials. See if we can consolidate any of these. Merge. And we cannot. Okay. Alright, / we'll isolate the back wall. See what all these different materials are. And let's see here. This is the outer wall. Arches. Okay. These should be very similar, if not the same. Wall arches. Wall back. Okay. I think what we'll do is use the same principal bsdf for these. So that'll speed this up. Principal bsdf 0.1 bump, base color. This is, and then we'll add a color gamma 0.3. And that was for the outer walls. Just makes them a little less white. And it might be white because of the light shining on them. Maybe there's too much light, maybe there's not enough. So once we get into a little Once we get our actual lights in, we can look at that a little more and see what we want to do. Move this up to 0.9, and we will copy these two. Control copy, and we're going to put that on the arches. Control paste. One, normal, color. Missed my gamma for whatever reason. Whoops. Shift A, color, gamma, bam. Alright. And this is another Windows Arches. Should be, yep. We will control paste. Put our diffuse in. 0.1, whoops. 0.1, 1, normal. And add our gamma. And window plate. That is some piece in there, I assume. And we have a, whoops. Did I do that wrong? Edit, undo. Edit, undo again. What did I delete? Nope. Okay, we're good. Yeah, see this says EV. We don't need the EV render. We just need the cycles output. And this one has the principal bsdf in already, which is nice. And we don't need clear coat normal. We don't need clear coat, which is already 0. Bump 0.1 and 1. This is the lower part of the window there. And we can add some gamma. 1.3. And let's see what our displacement is. So that's adding the design. The lighter parts should pop out. So we should be able to just add a displacement. And height of 0.01 I think is what usually works pretty well. Oh, not height, I'm sorry. Scale, 0.01. Mid-level is usually 0.5. And we'll put that in the displacement. And you can really see that pop out there. So if we, whoop, let me make sure, always make sure the displacement is actually turned on. I think it's, when we import it, it usually turns on the way it's supposed to. Displacement and bump. So yes, it is on. So if we turn the turn this node off, we'll see that I don't see a whole lot of difference, but you can really see it more at grazing angles, and really your eye just notices something is off, something is not quite right, even though it can't always place it. And if you play video games, you'll see that. You'll see the characters. They have the features, but they're flat against their face because they're not bumped out or bumped in. So anyway, definitely looks better with it on. We'll leave it on. Next material is the frame. This is, I don't know what that is. Oh, because it has volume in it, it doesn't go black. Okay, so that's interesting. They gave it like a skin material, I guess, in DAZ, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure what to do with that in Blender. Let's see what the color map looks like. Oh, there isn't one. It's just bump. So I guess this is left up to our artistic interpretation. So let's see what the bump does. 0.1, 1. It gives us the little bumps. And I think I just might add a we'll just add a principal bsdf. I think I just want it to either like a black or maybe a white bone color. So we're at a principal bsdf, and whoops, this is the bump. Base color white. It's definitely not what we want. So if we want with a yellow bone color, probably not really what we want either. Actually, it's not terrible. It's a little glossy. And if we went with a, let's see, let's go with an input, RGB. And let's see if we like black better. Base color. Definitely need lower, less black. Which is not too bad. So this was the, so let's try this along with the bone white color. I think that was the intention. And that actually looks pretty good with the volume. So we will keep that there. It looks a little plastic, but not bad. Make it see-through a little bit. Alright. That's not bad. We'll leave that there. Considering it's just a color, no texture. Not bad. And once we have light shining through this, this will look a little different once we get our final lighting in. So we'll leave that the way it is. Okay. Shell, which is not sure what that is. What is that? Let's see what this color is. Pure black. One thing we really want to try to avoid is pure black. Really 0.008 is probably about as low as we should go. You can get down to 0.005. Just be aware that probably shouldn't go that low, or definitely no lower, because nothing in the world is pure black except for maybe that Vanta black pigment. But anyway, you don't want to go the whole way to complete black, or you don't want to go the whole way to complete white. And I don't know what this material is, so we will just leave it go. We'll leave it black. Obviously it doesn't affect anything. And let's see what this one is. This one is, oh, this is on the outside. There again, it doesn't really affect anything. We're not going to be able to see it in a render. Not really. Nah, won't be able to see it. Okay, we'll leave that go, just the way it is. Alright, file, save, and we'll do a quick render and see what we have, and see what's left. So this is our current status. Looking pretty okay so far. This may not be the best background I've ever purchased, but it's definitely doable. And you can really see the difference with the displacement map on this piece back here that we talked about. versus this bump map. So definitely a difference there. So in the final render, I'll probably find a way to minimize that, maybe with a vignette or blur or something, so we can't see that quite so much. But otherwise, pretty good. And this glass is actually pretty good. This was the straight conversion from DAZ to Blender. And really only have a couple more things to look at here. Would be these. These are a little glossy. They look like plastic because they're just a little too glossy. And if we're going to do anything with that window up there and these little bones here. So let's look at that next. 3D viewport. We'll look at these bones. / render. And let's see what we brought in for these spikes. Go to one material, makes it easy. And this is this looks just like the setup for the surrounding piece. So let's bring that back in too. / we'll select that and this. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. So render. And yeah, these are just look like a darker color than the edge, which is pretty good. So I'm going to copy my setup. No, I want to copy my setup for that if I can find it. Shell frame. Yep, it'll be this one. And control copy. And we'll take that to the spikes. We'll just move these down for now. If you control left click, no, control right click, it'll cut all your lines. And we will paste. Don't need that one. And we'll take our bump map into our height. And now we have the same material, but it was, as you can see, it was darker. I think I like that a little darker. So let's try. Oops. Let's try a little darker on this one. I don't know if we'll do the diffuse color or the absorption color. We'll see here. That's okay. Let's see what this looks like. And I'll take that out of a whole lot of effect. Did not. Alright, so we'll leave that the way it is. Put it in here. Maybe not quite as dark. And maybe darker. Yeah, we'll do it darker. I like darker. And then we'll take the roughness down a little bit. We'll give it some gloss. Alright, look a little plastic. See what this roughness looks like. That's not bad. Let's try to bump it up. See if it does anything. And it's still a little glossy. We'll increase that. 0.7. And that's not too bad. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because you're not going to be able to see it. It's not a big part of the scene. And it's a good thing too, because it's just a diffuse color. They're all just brown. So whenever you have that just plain diffuse color, kind of looks like a piece of plastic, like molded plastic. Okay, so we're not going to spend any more time on that. / we'll finish up with these. I was pretty happy with how these turned out. So, and I'm assuming these use the same material. So that is right spine holder, And left spine holder. So they use the same material, but they have different names. So we'll do one, copy it over to the other one, and alright, then we can move on. Alright, so spine holder. Yeah, that's really quite good. I'm happy with that. Glass can be a real pain in Blender to get it to look right or the way you want it. So I'm actually just gonna hide that. Oops. Brought everything back. There we go. And we'll just do this one. And we have a couple maps here, which is good. Oh, we have a displacement map, which is good. So we'll go with the tried and true principal bsdf, and color goes into color. One bump goes into bump, normal, and displacement go into a displacement. This goes into height. 0.01 normally works pretty good, and that will give us a little extra surface displacement there, so that's pretty good. Alright, and a bump. See, bumps typically the smaller details, and then displacement is the larger details. So they complement each other quite well. And you can see the color matches the displacement as well, because that dark indentation there is also recessed in the material. So that matches pretty good. So these are pretty nice. And we'll adjust the roughness a little bit, and I think we want to bring it up. And Alt A to deselect, and that looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. All right, so we'll copy this. Control C, go to the other spine. And we'll hope that the other spine was the same. Maybe this one we just did. Maybe they're just identical. Let's see here. Render this one. Yep, okay. Same material, same render. Everything's good. Okay. So that's pretty good. I'll bring the character back in, and just with our base white lights, we'll do a quick render, see what we think. This is the output from our current render. 256 samples, no denoising, and it's not bad. I think I'd like to add some red here, change these yellow globes to red, and I might change the camera size to focus more on the character and not so much the entire environment, and that would eliminate these pillars. So I think we'll do that. Go to camera settings, and let's 1280 by 1920, and N view, camera view, and I think I'm going to do something like that, because that's going to give us one of these glass objects with the light shining through it. So if we have a light shining kind of from up here, it'll shine through this, give us some reflection, Give some nice light on the character face, and then we'll have a background. So we might move it over here, something like that. I don't know, we'll see. But I think next we'll go into the HD morphs and HD maps. And once we get those applied, then we'll do our pose and get set up for final render.